Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first official meeting after the call out of Adapted Toys for Children. Let's get started. What's on the agenda for today? We have updates real quick, and then we're going to have our first learning session ever of the new kind of series that we're going to be implementing this semester. And then we're going to kind of break off into our groups. We're not going to necessarily, I mean, if you can get started by all means, but we're not necessarily going to get started on the specific projects today, but we're going to kind of run through them more specifically once you all choose which group you want to be in, and then and we'll break off and discuss from there. So yeah, updates. We were contacted by a faculty instructor in the special education group today, or not today, or earlier this week. Dr. Ann's in touch with her right now, but she found us through one of our flyers, and she's interested in possibly helping out whatever way she can. We're going to see if maybe she would like to come in and speak on her field, and maybe give you guys a better glimpse of that area. And another update: we are closing off shirt design submissions as of this meeting. If you had something already in the works and just didn't tell me, just let me know and you can still submit it, I guess. But if you haven't started yet, we are just closing off shirt design submissions. So we have a few options to choose from, and we will let you guys know once more updates come around what goes on with shirts. And yeah, let's get started on our first learning session. So how these are going to work are we're going to go over a brief topic. The goal is to keep them at about like 20 minutes per meeting. We're going to go over different aspects of the work that we do, whether it be circuits, the community we serve, here in this case, toy adapting. And you guys are welcome to ask questions towards the end. And yeah, so let's get started. This presentation is going to be a little bit more focused on just the general design aspect of toy adapting. So looking for specific design oversights that might make a toy unsuitable for children with various disabilities and how to correct them to better suit those disabilities. This is not really meant to be a specific technical presentation on like the ins and outs of our process, nor is it like a comprehensive explanation of the community for people with disabilities. This is more so just this is what we look out for. This is how we try to fix that, and you'll sort of see what I mean as we go more into it. So, as I'm sure you all know, there are many different types of disabilities and impairments, special needs, a lot of different types. It's quite literally a spectrum in a lot of cases. This list, it was provided to us by our partner at Glass. If you want to check where we got this from specifically, it was from a guest speaker presentation that she gave last semester. So if you want to check that on our YouTube channel, would recommend if you wanted to see more about the specific children that we serve, the children that we donate these toys to, and you want to get more details on that. Most of the children that she works with, they may fall under the autism spectrum, or they might have a specific physical impairment. This makes up a large portion of our kids, and this impacts mostly the way we do things in terms of the types of adaptations we wind up doing. They might also have certain cognitive disorders, not being able to understand certain concepts, developmental delays. They might be behind on certain things, but still learning on the way. Behavioral differences, and a lot of these overlap. So a child with a certain sensory issue might also have a specific physical impediment or something like that. There's a wide variety of these things, and keep this in mind as we go through specific adaptations later on. As you'll learn, there's no way to address everything on this list in one toy, and we'll get into that later. So what do these specific disabilities and categories translate to in terms of like an effect on a child? Some physical disability examples are they might not have certain physical dexterity. More widely affecting disabilities might be, they could be wheelchair bound, unable to move their legs or the lower half of their body. They might also be more dependent on their feet instead of their hands. Some children are unable to move anything below their shoulders with good dexterity, so they might rely on their feet to press certain buttons on toys or perform everyday actions. There's also a few sensory examples, in this case, some of which are contradictory. Some children might have a low tolerance for high amounts of noise and light. It might be overstimulating for them. And on the other hand, some children may have a dependence on these noises and lights. Some children might associate a certain sound with a very specific action or thing that's about to happen. So that is somewhat, that can be the dependence in terms of figuring things out. Another example are developmental delays, in which case the child might require more emphasis on cause and effect. I know that at the school we donate these to, that's a big thing that they try to teach is cause and effect. You press this button, this thing happens. You flip this switch, it will give you this in return. And to kind of like help them out with interacting with the everyday world and figuring out how that all works. They might also require certain visual cues, more starkly contrasting switches and signs might be key to kind of pointing out that difference between different meanings. How have these specific effects been addressed, you might be wondering? Um, you'll notice here there's a lot of different like senses and different kind of ways of going about this. So you'll notice sounds, tactile, visual senses. These are all different ways that you can target a child and actually like play to their strengths. So for sounds, for example, they have buttons and toys that can produce unique sounds that could in some cases be a child's method of communication. I know that in the school that we donate to, the teacher pointed out that they have these big buttons that she calls Big Mac buttons, and and when you press those buttons, they release a certain sound like stop, go, goodbye. So they'll have like a big button on the door frame, for example. So when they're leaving, they all press goodbye. And so this could be their method of communication in some cases. You'll also have connecting specific sounds to toy functions, again, to help distinguish those specific features. Tactile, if a child relies more heavily on what they feel in the everyday world, a good way to distinguish certain switches and buttons might be to add Velcro, bumps, fabric, or any other materials to help, again, specify and distinguish what those things do. Visual cues, same thing, but with colors, with different different visual cues, I'm sure you can imagine. And in terms of actual physical adaptations, this could come in a lot of different forms depending on your design process. A lot of what people do is they will attach larger buttons that are able to access a toy's features because they are much easier to press for a child that doesn't have the finger dexterity to press a button that's really tiny, say on your keyboard, for example. Um, Choosing toys that won't roll away from a child that can't walk. If you're playing with a toy that kind of rolls across the floor as it dances or talks or whatever, if the child can't walk per se, that toy goes out of their reach, they're going to need someone else to go get that for them, for example. So kind of limiting that might be just a better way to keep that child in mind and make it a little bit more accessible for them. A bit more specifically about how we address these, I mentioned before the Big Mac buttons and kind of how we have our own specific adaptations kind of geared towards what we find at Glass. So with a lot of the cases, children may not have the specific finger dexterity. So these big buttons will plug into a toy through an aux cord in the back of this toy, as you can see right here. And that button is able to access one of the toy's features that is normally connected through one of the tiny buttons on the front. So it interacts with the toy the exact same way that a normal button would, except it's much easier to press. Adding tactile and visual cues, a couple of the toys that we've had last semester, one of them was a large bowl that when you press down on the top of it, it was kind of like tricky to press in some cases because you had to like press the rim of it or kind of reach your hand down into it to press down and activate its lights and everything. So they added a top to that, and now it's a little bit easier to press. Visual cues might be we received an alphabet keyboard. If you know what I'm talking about, it's kind of like one of those children's toys. You have like a large keyboard and then the kind of like the alphabets strewn across it. Um, we couldn't necessarily do a standard button adaptation with that, so we instead tried to distinguish certain keys on there by painting like the vowels a specific color or the numbers, for example. Reducing mobility. This is something we've done on a few toys. We remove wheels on toys that don't necessarily need them so that they don't roll out of reach, like I mentioned before. A note here, our toys are based on what's available. In some ways, that's kind of like the charm of this club. It kind of encourages us to use our creativity, in some cases with members here, our engineering skills and design skills, to work around a problem, know our end user, and work with what we have to make that toy the most accessible it can be. Most of our toys, there have been exceptions to this, but most of our toys do come from donations or Goodwill trips. This is simply because it's for the sake of repurposing a toy that might get thrown out or yeah, just thrown out otherwise. It's also for price reasons in some scenarios. We're not against buying toys. If you have a very specific toy in mind, like something that you think a lot of kids could get some use out of, we're open to looking into those specific toys. However, just right now at the moment, like about 80-90% of our toys are either from Goodwill or from donations. We aren't always going to get the ideal toy, but we make it work, and it encourages some diversity in our toy output, because obviously not every toy we get, if it's random, is going to be suitable for a button adaptation. So it kind of encourages us to think outside of our comfort zone, learn new ways of adapting things, and try to um, and what comes out of that is a bunch of toys that are different. We don't want to give out a bunch of toys that do the exact same thing. All right, Kahoot. Let's do Kahoot. Um, Everyone's welcome to join along in this. I'm going to set that up. Basically, it's not entirely like based. Some of it's going to be based on memory of what you heard here in this presentation, and others are going to ask you to. Other questions are going to ask you to like think about what you like to kind of use the knowledge that you learned in this presentation to apply that to new toys, and we'll have some kind of free response questions. Yeah, so cause and effect is a big thing that we mentioned before. This is one of the key learning things that they teach in the school in class. And switch adaptive beat bell is a good way to just kind of press a button and you'll get a response out of it. You'll get a lights and sounds thing most of the time. I realize that a lot of you guys might not know what a beat bell is actually off the top of my head. Hopefully you remember that from the first presentation, but at the very least, switch adapted might have given it away. And looking good so far. So we'll get started on this one. Yeah, okay. So again, primarily for substituting another toy in this case. There are like a few other ways that they could be used for, as I mentioned, communication, among other things. But yeah, primarily you'll find that they're substituted for other features. Ooh, very cool. Is the video playing? Uh-oh. It's not loading. Oh. Wow, you guys didn't even need the video. Impressive. Yeah, basically it'll roll out of their reach. Hand strength might also be a thing, but primarily, yeah, it'll roll out of their reach. And you'll notice I did add a few videos into this, so you'll get to kind of see if you want to weigh out what this toy specifically does. Yeah, I did include the all of the above there kind of as like a trick thing. Only speaking English isn't that big of an issue necessarily. It's not something that we can fix unless we want to record our own lines or something. And in terms of moving too fast, it only bobs its head. If it was like violently moving its arms around or something, then that might be an issue, but it's mainly moving its head. And yeah, so if you'll notice on the front of the toy, uh, I don't want to play the whole video again. There are only a couple of small buttons to access it. Cool. Yeah. Reducing mobility, adding color distinctions, large buttons, all the things that we mentioned before, and things that you might find in the toy you take on. Ooh, we got some officers fighting for the top spot. Yeah. Sense of smell. Yeah, that is actually a thing. Some people do find ways to like incorporate smell into their toys, and that is a sense. I didn't specifically mention it, but sense of humor is not something that I think we can adapt for specifically. Who knows? Maybe we can get creative with that. Yeah. Okay. That's good. I'm glad everyone got that one. So confined ICU is a little bit too limiting. Honestly, it would be a bit hard to get a toy in there. We did try to work with the children's hospital once, but we had to put that off. We're all winners here. Basically, yeah, this is just meant to emphasize that there is more than one way to go about focusing a toy to a certain thing. You could try to find a way to do some button adaptations or switches or something for physical impairment. You could try to find some ways to make the buttons more distinctive. And yeah, there's a few different ways to go about that. Whoa, JP's on a streak. Watch out, guys.
I'm surprised you found videos for all these toys, but
So am I. I was wondering who would recognize the goose. Yep, all of the above. Fun fact, we actually did have this toy about a year ago. It's almost done with its adaptations right now. We just need to touch up a couple things. Um, we removed the wheels because it did move around its own. The bumping feature and turning around was a nice thing, but we did remove the wheels just for the sake of potentially going out of the kids' reach. Button adaptations, because it is a Switch adaptation thing, you do need to press it to start it. And it had a fun feature where that wasn't advertised for some reason. When if you grab the neck of the goose, it starts to scream and calls you a monster until you let go of its neck. I'm not joking. I have a video somewhere on my phone of this, but yeah, that's a fun story. I have a couple of videos like that if anyone, coming up of toys some members might recognize. Cool. Yeah, this is actually another toy we have. I think the person who's working on it is actually here today. Yeah, I was actually surprised I was able to find videos of these specific toys. Ooh. Okay, cool. Yeah, this one was kind of a trick question. So I wanted to kind of include a toy or something in here that was already perfectly suitable for a child. Not everything we get, so who knows? We might get a toy that's perfectly suitable for a child potentially. So this one in particular is a thing that is specifically made for children with disabilities. It's meant to be kind of like a mobility device. So yeah, it is already perfectly suited for them. I guess there is an argument that could be made for adapting it to make it a little bit better, but I just kind of want to throw that in there because it might be something unique that could happen. Oh, okay. So really quick, we're gonna start getting some messages here. Basically, this is a free response. If you hold on, yeah, if you have an idea for how you'd like to adapt this toy, for example, private message me in the chat. I meant to explain that before. Let me pull up the chat. So if you look above the little messaging thing, you can direct it to someone. So just you could put my name and I guess it doesn't matter if it goes out to everyone, but if you'd like to keep it anonymous, just send it to me. And I'll play the video, sorry. So think of this as free response Kahoot. All right. Yeah, so looking through the responses, I got a lot of switch controlled things. So adding a larger button. Yeah, so add a switch, add a larger button, basically to take place of the hand controller. If you don't know how these figure eight tracks typically work, is they usually work on a trigger. So that's how he was controlling it. Oh, a loading rim might be neat. Yep, larger buttons. These are all very good ideas. Colors and lights, that's cool. So maybe something to highlight the track specifically to know where the cars will go. Yep, buttons, very awesome. Like I don't mean to take away from how special buttons are. That would be a really good way to do this. Awesome. Create a panel for this. Yeah, exposed wire might be an issue. These are it could get tangled a lot. Add some lights, yeah. And stabilize it. Yeah, these things can get pretty flimsy. So yeah, really good ideas. I love the ones that went into specific detail. You guys are definitely on the right track with thinking about this. Right track. Unintentional pun right there. Okay, I'm sorry. Next one, same thing, but new toy. Some people trying to get some quick points with the early answers there. Big Mac button adaptation, good idea. Place the button in an easier place, yeah. Switch, bigger buttons. Put a big push button, but also remove the wheels. Very good, awesome. Having a mute button with a non-light and a non-light button. Ooh, that could be cool. Having something with the settings that specifically turns off the lights if the child might be sensitive to that. Maybe removing flashing lights might be really stimulating, possibly. Very good. Bottom button to somewhere more intuitive. Yeah, that's a good idea. Entire head a big button. Ooh, that'd be that could be possible. That actually be pretty cool if we could do that somehow. Multi-button board or microcontroller to access these different things. Get rid of the feet motors. Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Good ideas, everyone. Very cool. And I know these last two have been buttons specific. So let's see where this next one goes. Our last question, our last toy. It's going to be similar to the last two questions.
Oh, by the way, Cooper, for next meetings, I think you gotta share the computer audio.
Oh no, I forgot to
Yeah,
do that. Oh wait.
yeah, we're missing out on the Kahoot music.
Can you hear it now?
Yeah.
I just realized I didn't hear any of the reviews. I'm so sorry. Okay. I'll do that for the future. I meant to look into that.
Yeah, that's good.
Can't believe I took out one of the best parts of Kahoot. If you guys do want to check out the toy reviews, you can find this Kahoot on Kahoot. The toy reviews are on there if you really want to learn what those things did. So that was pedals with a steering wheel toy kind of contraption. So making the buttons a little bigger and adding, yep. Ooh, that could be cool. Adding more visual features, yeah, definitely. A lot of the buttons were pretty small and unnotable. It's not a whole car, but yeah, that is that could work. Sort of rewiring that to be used for physical therapy. Yeah, very cool. Adding colors. Um, Pedals could be used as two big buttons. Yeah, good idea. Make the buttons bigger and make the pedals more accessible. Yep, grabbing the steering wheel might be tricky. Yeah, this one was definitely I threw this one as kind of a curveball for the toys. So yeah, a lot of these are attaching a Big Mac, using these as controls for other toys and among other things. Hey, good job, guys. Hope you guys like that. Sorry about the audio at the last minute, um, and everything. But yeah, thank you guys for playing along. I hope you enjoyed that. So let's get back to our regularly scheduled funnel PowerPoint. And fun fact about most of those toys actually is for those of you who are new to the club or maybe just haven't seen all the toys we actually have almost all of those toys I showed off: the steering wheels, the penguin toy, the whatchamacallit was the last one, the figure eight racing track. We have all three of those toys among other ones. So if you were really interested in that and had an idea that you thought was really good and unique, by all means, you're welcome to take it up as the toy you want to adapt later in this semester. So just want to throw that in. I tricked you all into a brainstorming session. So yeah, kind of wrapping up the learning session here, just some tips. I will always try to mention this is with these learning sessions, if you're really curious about learning more about the community or specific toy adaptations, I encourage you to do your own research. This presentation isn't exhaustive. It's not meant to list every specific toy adaptation, nor is it like meant to highlight every specific disability we can adapt for. These are just kind of our ideas that we've gone through in the past couple years. They're not the only way to do things, and we don't want to limit your ability to design your own way. So I encourage you to, if you want, do your own research, look at professional organizations, and see what else you can do. We try to be as knowledgeable as we can, so we're open to new ideas. Another thing that I've kind of mentioned a couple of times already, but I'll say one more time: we don't need to adapt for everything specifically. If you end up adapting a toy with just a Big Mac button for a child with dexterity issues, and it's not suitable for a kid with with a sensory disability, that's totally okay. The important thing is just making sure that, like in the grand scheme of things, and that's not something for any one member to focus on, is that the child with sensory disabilities also gets a toy. So it's not necessarily that one toy is meant for every child. It's just that every child has an option to work with. And hopefully, once we sort of get a bigger output of toys, we can coordinate with the teacher just to specify, hey, what are we missing? What children don't have toys that they can play with and all that stuff. And one last thing, notice that we didn't go into the how or why we do this specifically. I mean, obviously you can imagine why. It's a good cause and provides a much needed service to these children. But there's a few other reasons, but those come later. So those will be learning sessions to come in the future weeks. Uh, we will let you guys know more about those once we kind of start rolling them out, once we come closer to those. And yeah, hopefully you guys look forward to those. We have a few ideas in the works. So before I move on, does anyone have any questions? That is the end of the learning session, I guess. If no one has any questions, then I'll leave the chat open before I put in breakout rooms or whatever. So yeah, speaking of breakout rooms, we are going to get into groups. So hopefully everyone has been briefed in some capacity on the groups that we have for this club. We have the virtual toy planning group. That would be Kate's group today. Normally it's run by Madison, but she couldn't make it today. So Kate will be taking over that just for today. That's the group where you plan virtual adaptation or adaptations that can be done from home. Like you write up instructions for parents to make their own adaptations on their own. hands-on toy adapting. This would be my group for this semester. It's going to be as close as we get to normal adaptations, like where we would come in and actually work on the toy. We would give you the toy to work on your own for the semester, and the 3D button project, where Andre supervises a team of people who are working to 3D print our own Big Mac button to distribute to the school for a bunch of reasons, a bunch of purposes. We will reconvene at around 8:25, and all right. Hello, guys. Yeah, so this is the hands-on toy adapting group. We went over this in our call out and a couple other things, just with some general details. You guys should know the premise of this already. We give you a toy to take home and you work on it from there. But to kind of get into some specifics, so last semester we ran this through Madison when I was off campus. So now that she's off campus, we kind of had a quick switch of groups. So this is my first time running this group too. Hopefully you guys enjoy it though. Um, but yeah, so how this is going to work is next week I will have a full list of the toys that we have available for everyone. Some of you who were here last semester already have a toy that you might still be working on, and that's totally fine. Uh, but I will bring a list of toys available, and like we can go over the specific descriptions of them, the features, and everything. It's should be pretty quick and basically just a quick tour review, if anything, multiple things. So you can get an idea of what every toy is capable of, and yeah. So once that's done, we will set up like I'll try to create a group chat for this soon. Um, we will schedule quick meetings to hand off the toys. So what we'll give you is the toy itself and a small like toolkit, like some screwdrivers and stuff, just so you're able to open up the toy and manipulate it however you need. If it needs batteries, we will try to give you those. Um, let's see. And from there, you guys will all have the toys to work on from home. And how that will go is you guys can work on it on your own time, but generally we will work on these toys during during official club meetings under like the supervision of other officers who or more experienced members. So if you have any questions or anything like that about specific technical things or what you should be looking for, you could just ask us. We'll be right there working on our own things too. And yeah, so in terms of the specific adaptations that we like expect or encourage you guys to do, we're not encouraging anything heavy necessarily. We're not going to be sending home full on soldering irons or drills or anything for safety reasons, but also because we want to kind of make sure that we're all fully on the same page before we like permanently alter a toy, if you know what I mean. So um, we encourage you to like kind of figure out the functionality of wires, maybe just figure out how to best access different portions of the toys, which can take longer than you might think. Unscrewing it and actually figuring out what leads to where can be a challenge with certain toys. Um, but yeah, if you guys, something new that we might be doing this semester is if you guys have lab access and are able to access those during your own time, we might, if you want to, we might encourage you to finish off the adaptations. So if you have access to soldering irons in a lab, we might ask you to, or not ask you to, if you want to, you're more than welcome to go into those labs that you have access to and finish off those toy adaptations. Just in case you like run out of things to do. Um, there may be times when we don't send you home with a specific tool, or you might want to switch off a toy, or you might just want to switch groups entirely. That's totally fine. If you guys want to do anything like that, if you need a tool, or if you need a tool or want to switch off a toy, just let us know and we can schedule a time to switch those off. Um, if you want to switch groups, that's fine. Just if you already have a toy on you, you will need to give that back if you want to switch groups before you switch groups. So yeah, that's basically it. But you're more than welcome to switch groups if you want to. You just have to give the toy back. Once the semester ends, we will reconvene kind of and give all and collect all the materials and tools before you go home or whatever happens, because we do need all the materials on us on campus when we're not in session. Another thing, uh, something we're doing right now is I'm working with one of the club members with lab access to finish off a couple of the toys that we have from last semester. Currently, this is like about 3 toys, I believe, at the moment that are pretty much ready to go in terms of planning and everything. So that might be where your toy ends up. If you don't, if you're comfortable with just kind of letting us finish it off for you, um, we're happy to. If you if you would like to finish the toy yourself, that's totally fine too. We would just need to wait until, like, say you have lab access, or we all can meet together in groups. So we'll have a few options for how to actually finish off toys. I mentioned before, in terms of specific examples of toys, we have the penguin, for example. We have the figure-8 track. We have the pedals, which actually came from my house. My brother was about to throw them away. I'm like, wait, that might work for things. So if anyone wants to take up those, you're more than welcome to. And some things might be trickier than others. No shame if you can't figure it out. We certainly haven't been able to figure out every toy. That toy penguin that I mentioned, we've had that since the club was founded, which was like 2.5 years ago. So um, we still haven't been able to dedicate a lot of time to it to finish. So if anyone wants to take that up, more than welcome to. Um, I just want to make it clear that there's no pressure if you can't finish or if you can't figure it out. That's fine. Not everything is crazy complex, nor is it really simple. Um, but yeah, that's, I think, everything I need to cover. Does anyone have any questions right now? If you would like to see specifically what the atmosphere of this project was like last semester, you can check out our YouTube channel. We have documentation of most of our meetings. I feel like I plugged that YouTube channel way more than I should. But if you want an idea of what was done during those meetings, kind of like just a general idea, there are a lot of cuts in it. You can watch those videos. Most toys are the same, like, or not the same. They're all very unique, but like a lot of them have the same functionality. They might roll around, light up, and dance. So, for example, that like dog toy, if you remember, the one that was like bobbing its head and was supposed to be playing music before I had it muted. That we had 2 of those toys specifically, and essentially like, I don't know, at least like 5 toys with similar functionality where you would press a button and it might light up, and where you might light it up and press music and play music and stuff. Sorry, I got a notification for something. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. Oh, we are gonna ask you to sign a quick form before we hand out the toys, like kind of before we meet up to give you the toy and the tools, just to like kind of say, don't break anything, don't use these tools on anything except for the toy itself. Don't take the toy off campus if you're going home for the weekend or something. Stuff like that, just kind of safety things, and in terms of keeping our property on campus and all that. Basically, yeah, that's it for this week, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed our first learning session, and hopefully you guys were all properly informed of the projects we have going on this semester. If this PowerPoint decides to load, you guys can leave feedback if you like, have any suggestions for learning sessions, things that you would like to learn this semester, things that you would think we can do to improve the way we do things, whatever you guys feel like. And we have our social media in the top left. But yeah, otherwise you're all free to go. And thanks for coming out.